Alrighty, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another piss video talking about piss people, right? So today we're talking about KP. I'm gonna refer to them as Chris, because if you make it, change that first letter to a C, it's Chris Paul, but KP, Chris Paul. Chris can start with a K, why not? But I'm just not gonna mention them by their name. I've seen them taken down videos, so I'm gonna make sure this has no way that they're able to take this video down. And you might be thinking, I know you make all these videos talking about some terrible people, so who the hell is this? And KP is someone who, on YouTube, and I have the tab pulled up right here, so I'll look at it. Some terrible editing on my part. 123,000 subscribers, and you might have already heard of Chris Paul because of this drama that happened earlier this year regarding a YouTuber named Saberspark. He's an artist YouTuber, been on the platform for a while, but there was allegations that Chris Paul platformed that painted him as a rapist, right? Long story short, this alleged victim was guided towards Chris Paul. And Chris Paul at the time was already making a video calling out Saberspark and a couple other art YouTubers. So they ran with this, right? They assisted this person, had him work on this document that was supposed to be like a big old manifesto, guided them on how to word things to make them sound more like a victim, and all that. Now, within that document, Chris Paul isn't the only one, right, that was guiding this person and being a terrible human being. There was other people. I believe Courtney Pete was involved in that process as well. So Chris Paul, being a good human being that they are, instead of going to authorities or anything, they go to Twitter and release all this information, right, regarding the doc, regarding everything, right? And I think the person themselves, the alleged victim, right, releases the document themselves. And then when they do all this, and before their video, they even run it past Lio Convoy, right? And, my best friend Tom has some good advice, right? And that's not sarcasm. Says that they shouldn't make the vid unless there's already a police report, which there wasn't. There was not a police report. And I don't believe there still is, because Saberspark brought the receipts and disproved the whole situation. But despite all of that, Chris Paul takes it upon themselves to go about spreading everything, despite all of that, releasing the video, right? So, all in all, again, Saberspark kind of clears himself. Whatever it is what it is. Chris Paul, is like, oh hey, I'm gonna diss myself this. I'm gonna blame the alleged victim, which I think is named Emmy. Saying that they didn't have this vetted, and all these other people involved, they didn't vet it, that it was true, not just Emmy, having an ego trip. Now, to preface, I don't know too much about the situation to really say if this person is a legitimate victim. It seems like they have a victim syndrome, but I don't know in this specific situation. From what I could find, it correlated very well that Saberspark unfollowed them on Twitter, and they got very sad. Someone told me about that they have abandonment issues or whatever, the Emmy person. Still not, a reason for you to spread rape allegations about a man, though. And to kind of finish this recap of Chris Paul lore, Chris Paul still keeps trying to slander Saberspark in their most recent video. I think it's called, Let's Talk, right? And, some trying to say, oh, he's a terrible person, X, Y, Z. And it's really silly, but at the end of the day, Chris Paul is a very unhinged individual. And as a blanket statement, watching content by Falgi and other people covering Chris Paul as a whole, which I'm not going to get into, I really don't care about them that much to cover them in a multi-hour stream and over multiple streams. But it all boils down to that Chris Paul is a very, very, very sheltered person growing up. They're 40. They've said that she's a femcel, which I would agree from the content I've seen going over her. So we get to now, right? So in that video that Chris Paul released, going over all these art YouTubers, which is now taken down, but it is archived. People's main critique is the part with, Saberspark. There's a few other creators that Chris Paul gives some bad takes about, that's baseless, regarding grooming and other things of that nature. So, since Chris Paul has deleted that video, they've taken it upon themselves to strike creators who went over that content. Up on screen now, I'm going to be throwing up some screenshots, you have Beckett, you got Fauci. I believe Beckett has 2 strikes, or 2 DMCA notices, from what I can gather from his post on Twitter. Fauci has the 1, and then there's another creator. I don't know them. I just know that this creator also got a strike. Their Twitter @, you just heard me open it. I got a screenshot. Pulled it up right now. Their name on Twitter is Artful Blueberry, or Cat Hidden Heroin. I fucking love heroin, dude, right in my fucking veins, right? But 3 of them, and there's more. I've seen more, but these are the ones that I found firsthand, right? Of these people getting their videos taken down, just covering that content. And it's not like these people have made direct re-uploads of this person's content, of Chris Paul's content, right? It is just reactionary, covering how they're making these false claims, XYZ, as the commentary and drama community does, And, I'm kind of just a spectator. A tourist, one would say, when it comes to the Chris Paul content. I've watched streams of Fauci going over them. It's pretty interesting. I think they're a pretty weird person at the end of the day, but I didn't think I'd make something talking about them until all these videos start getting taken down. It hits very close to home, when I have, a bad experience with an unhinged idiot, taking down my videos on baseless claims. I'm a fucking 84 subscriber YouTuber. I don't have a direct line to get my shit back, so that video's gone. And these people are kind of in the same boat. They're gonna, fight back against the DMCA claim, which means that Chris Paul's gonna have to take him to court to prove that it's a DMCA-able thing. And to further prove that Chris Paul is, again, a very, 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 very weird person, and doing this all out of spite. I'm gonna throw up on screen, but they sent a message. From what I read, this was sent to Lio Convoy. Good old Tom. We love you, Tom. Pretty much just saying that they're going to keep doing it because they're using privated and leaked information. However, it's not private or leaked. It's not leaked or private if you upload it to the internet to begin with. I don't know where these people get that point, right? As I said, with the redacted man that we've talked about a lot here on this channel, tried to pull the same claim. You uploaded it to the internet. I don't know what goes through these people's head. I don't know if they weren't raised right, to where it's like, oh, once you post something on the internet, it's there forever. I don't think they were taught that. And it just keeps showing that the most terrible people don't operate in that way of understanding that the internet, is a place where things don't go away. That's just not how it works. So yeah, I think I'm going to end everything here when it comes to this video, guys. I don't want to do a deep dive on this terrible person, Chris Paul. Chris Paul with a K, by the way. Chris with a K. I just don't see the need to. There's enough people who have done enough in-depth coverages, interviews with Chris Paul, to where me talking about them is just regurgitating the same information. This is really just here to bring light to the fact that Chris Paul is a very vengeful person and gets very mad when they get called out on some terrible bullshit. So yeah, if you want to learn about Chris Paul, I'm going to throw up on screen now, Beckett from Cope and Seeth, or the Cope and Seeth channel, has some pretty good videos kind of documenting and even interviewing Chris Paul over 3 videos. It's very long. I'm going to pull a screenshot up right now, actually, on my screen so I can see it. 30 minutes, hour and a half, and 2 hours. So that's about 4 hours worth of content. If you want to trudge through it, do it. And they're good videos just about a very terrible person. So, yeah, that's all. That's all for me. I don't know what else to talk about. So I'm going to go now and enjoy my night. So, bye-bye.